Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Grappler Union Podcast. Paul Maloney alongside Anthony Zito. On this episode, we have John Gutta in studio. John's a black belt under Mark Vives, and he's the owner and head instructor at Tipping Point BJJ. Enjoy.
I hate the 6 minutes. That's what happens in that 6 minutes.
You told me using any technique that works. Never to limit myself to one style. Keep an open mind.
When I hit you to take part, we're here to take over.
In order to become more peaceful, in order for you to become better and strategize your life.
All right, we are live.
What's up, John?
How's it going, guys?
Thanks for making it out, man.
John, awesome. Finally.
We've been bugging you for a minute, haven't we?
A little bit.
That's what Mark's
He's like,
reaction was
let's
today.
just get this over with already.
He's like, all right, guys, I'm going to be in town. Let's do it.
Right.
All right, last minute, no problem, man. We'll make it for you.
Good stuff.
Yeah, as long as you don't sign the mat like Tom Grant.
I actually ran into Tom Grant at New Breed at the Craig Jones seminar, and he said, it bugs me every time I see a picture of that mat. He goes, I'm the only guy on there that printed my name and didn't sign it.
Oh, he was episode 5, so
Yeah.
that, I mean, he
We
didn't
were
know what to
figuring
do.
stuff out then.
I guess so.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that it does bug me, that printed name.
We're going to have Tom come in and fix it.
Yeah.
Try and sign over it. Like a cover up, like a tattoo cover up.
Right. Yeah.
Kind of looks like you got a cover up.
Doesn't it? With
Yeah.
all the darkness
Yeah,
at
it's
the
very
bottom?
dark.
Yeah.
Show
And-
John.
and-
What do you think of that, John? It's pretty dark, isn't it?
I like it.
Yeah.
It's like you were a racist in your past life and you're trying to cover up a swastika on your wrist or something.
Right? Well, no, this is my first tattoo.
That's how rumors get started.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right? That fucking Zito. I knew it. Oh, man. So, seminar, how was it?
It was very good. Lucas Lepre's.
Lucas Lepre, yeah.
Is it Lucas Lepre or Lucas Lepre? I've heard both.
I don't know.
I just want to be right, you know?
I say Lepre.
I say Lepre.
Lepre. Yeah.
Okay.
It's the American way to say it, probably. You know?
Well, it was awesome.
Yeah, he's one of the best guard passers in the game, and he passes. He has a kind of a similar style to me. I'm not super explosive, and so a lot of guard passers are really explosive, and so it's kind of hard for me to emulate that. I don't have great grips, and he just does an amazing job of using his elbows and knees. It's kind of crazy. Like, he uses his elbows and his knees better than any guard passer I've ever watched, and so he'll like get a couple grips. And usually when people get grips, and past the guard, they're doing a lot with their footwork, and they're doing a lot with those whatever they're doing with their grips. But he will get a grip to be able to anchor his elbow, and then he'll use his knee and his footwork, and he's just like always in an amazing position. And it makes you realize that there are just levels to the game, and he really has stuff figured out.
So he's not because I'm not a very explosive. I should be, but I'm just not that type of guy. So my game's a little different. I'm more methodical, more slow, and I should be, because I'm little, I should be more explosive, I think. But now what you're telling me, I'm like, wow, well, maybe there's hope for me.
Yeah.
Maybe it's all about position and then understanding, where to use that leverage. So he doesn't like quick hip flips or anything like that? No.
Nothing like that.
Wow.
He'll even he'll make an angle to pass your guard, and then instead of just kind of jumping and reaching for the cake, he'll sit there for a second and make you make a few more mistakes. He'll take an extra 3 steps at the back end of it, so that by the time that he settles into the position, you have absolutely nowhere to go, and you're just really out of position. Versus if he jumped on side control once he passed, a lot of the times you might be able to dig an underhook,
right.
You might be able to turn to face, and so he just lands you in such a terrible spot that a lot of the times you just are turning to give up your back because you're in such a bad position. It was really cool.
Wow.
Had a chance to roll with him, and it was just
Did you?
Yeah.
How'd it go?
Exactly what I'm saying happened. He has and his bottom game's kind of similar to mine. He plays a lot of single-legged X, a lot of sitting up guard, and it was just, he's very, very technical. I expected him to have a little more, to use a little bit more strength, but obviously I felt it. He just didn't quite need it. But he was just in awesome position the entire time.
Yeah.
That doesn't get really brought up enough, the position. Like even I recently started teaching the beginner class, and I'm trying to, really think about my jiu-jitsu and what I can offer, being a smaller guy to everyone. And I try to bring up like positioning. Like position really, really matters, and you have to kind of figure that position. And for me, it's gonna be different than someone like Paul's size, especially when we're doing like sweeps from the bottom. Like, he can't be really close and get a sweep. This is not gonna work for his body. He's gotta be further away. So, and I'm trying to, understand that, even growing myself, trying to understand, okay, position. It's a word that's used a lot, but no one really pays attention. I don't think, not even for me, pay attention to that what's that really mean until you see someone like him. And then you're like, oh, he's in that position. Like, just know his body just goes there and he's just there. Where we have to be like, oh, my foot, oh, wait, okay, no, this is where I'm at. That little bit of an adjustment to get to the right position. And that's where people like you, I'm sure, people like him, who can just look at jiu-jitsu and like, oh, okay, those two guys, yeah, this guy's just off a little bit. He's off just a little bit. If they just move there, it would be there. It's so cool. It's so fascinating, I like watching jiu-jitsu matches and learning, because I'm looking at what they're doing. I'm like, well, how did he just get to there? And just the slight movements really blows my mind.
Yeah, I agree. And one of the things like that I've picked up from coaching, so I started teaching when I was a blue belt. I still live in Iowa, and there wasn't a lot of instructors around. So I kind of started teaching really early, and I thought everything was about body types, right? So you mentioned that you're a smaller guy, and I've subscribed to that. I was like, okay, I have a small person. I have somebody that's not athletic. I'm going to have them play this game because I see people do that. And over the years, I've found that ends up not working very well, because the biggest thing ends up being, in which path that somebody goes. Their body type plays a part in it, but their temperament, I think, plays a bigger part. Okay. Like, you watch people. And at least for me as a coach, I'll see people and I'll say, ooh, you're inclined to this position. But then you have some people that like come in and they just want to fight, right? And so if I give them a game that maybe would be better suited to their body type, it's not suited to their temperament. So they're really impatient. And then I'm putting them in a position like, so if I have somebody that's really aggressive, if I taught him a bolo game, you can't be that aggressive with it, right? So they end up, I think that a lot of the times, or at least one of the biggest things that I've found in coaching students, is that you have to give them some options for their body type, but then it's really their personality type that determines what direction they go long term.
Wow. Yeah. So, obviously where you train at, you get those guys on a regular, like you have a huge group always coming in, and because you're on campus, right? Right.
So I was, Matt is kind of taken over that. Okay, so Matt Layton has kind of taken over at the university, and I have a gym about 20 miles north up in Cedar Rapids. So we have a bunch of new folks up there too. So a lot of different, we have, we have kids all the way up. I just promoted a 72-year-old to his purple belt. Awesome. So we have a kind of a big range of both body types and temperaments too.
So how do you gauge, like when someone first comes in the gym, how do you gauge in, like, you don't know them, you don't know where they're going to be. How do you gauge their temperament? How long does that take, that process?
At least a year.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, when I'm teaching jiu-jitsu, the fundamentals are going to be the same across the board, right? Like, just like everybody needs to learn the alphabet, you need to learn the letters, no matter what type of book you want to end up writing, or what type of, whether you want to write poetry, whether you want to write a novel, whether you want to write a song, you still have to know the letters. So our fundamentals class is geared towards, okay, let's learn the letters. Let's learn these basic, phrases, basic syntax, basic grammar. And then once you get to that point, then it's kind of like, what are you gravitating towards? What positions are you gravitating towards? And I'll, offer, if I see something that like is really suited to their body type, I'll throw it their way. But I think before I used to kind of shove games down some of my students' throats, and then it really ended up in some cases backfiring, and it just didn't match their temperament. And then I've figured out over the years, just let them go that direction, and then just encourage them whichever way they're going. Really try to pair them up with their psychology.
Man, fascinating. And how long did it take you to kind of come to that realization about the temperament?
Maybe in the last 4 years, 3-4 years.
So if somebody comes in and they're kind of, they want to fight, like you said, like they're a bit aggressive, you think they have the temperament, maybe I should teach this guy smash passing instead of, like, he might not be a slick enough player to do berimbolo. Is that what you mean by that?
Not necessarily. So, I mean, like, there's some guards and some, like, passing styles where you have to yield, right? You have to, like, take a couple steps backwards in order to take a step forward. Mm-hmm. Or it's a position where you have to, like, very incrementally work your way to a better and better position, like half guard, right? If you just decided, like, I'm going to explode up from half guard at every opportunity, probably wouldn't be a good day for you, right? It takes a lot of, like, fine tuning, small, like, adjustments to be able to get to good positions to be able to attack. Bolo is kind of the same way, versus, like, a little bit more of an aggressive guard is, like, I would think maybe like a sit-up guard or a spider guard. And the type, even within each guard system, there's, like, a more aggressive style of play versus a less aggressive style of play. Right. So if you, like, look at, like, a spider guard from, like, Homo Liberal, it's very aggressive. He's using it to sweep. He's using it to come up, versus, like, a Michael Lange, who is going to sit back there and have an impassable guard, and you're eventually going to fall into a trap. Like, those, you know, they're using the same guard system, but they're playing it in very different ways. And so, you know, my students will kind of do the same thing. If they gravitate towards a guard system, maybe I'm going to have somebody that wants to be a honey badger and get in there, you know, right away, working on some really aggressive sweeps, maybe taking a few more risks with their positioning, versus you know, someone that's a little bit more even-tempered. You know, they're going to have more time to set something up. They're going to be more of a counter fighter and use the other person's momentum against them. Yeah, for sure. And then patience too, like, is a big part of your style. And you could see who's patient and who's not. Like, I mean, someone who has ADD is not patient, and you could tell those guys immediately. They're they're always, like, looking around. They could barely, like, focus. Right. You know, you're talking to them and they're like, yeah, and they're looking over here, and you're like, this dude is not going to be patient enough for this path or this style. Right. And then you start to, you know, see that. So, I mean, it would depend. So you mentioned, like, if I were to get a student that came in that just wanted to fight, well, it depend on the other attributes too, because there's a lot of ways. Like, you know, you have people that are really explosive. You have people that are kind of slow twitch. You have people maybe that are that want to fight but have a really lanky. They're not super strong. They're going to have a completely different, you know, game. They're gonna, you know, the way that I would coach them how to pass the guard, you know, once they get up to a certain level, right? So once they get up to, like, a blue belt, maybe a little ways into their blue belt, we're gonna focus on things that accentuate both their attributes and what they're naturally gravitating towards. So somebody that's really explosive that wants to get into fights, maybe they're going to be a really aggressive Toriando passer, right? Like Leandro Lowe, or, like, have that Hail Mary knee slide where they're just coming down the pipe as hard as they can, versus somebody that's maybe a little bit more slow twitch. They're going to be getting in the pocket. They're going to be doing a really tight under over and grinding into their partner and kind of smashing them. So, you know, the temperaments, like, guide part of it, and then the body type, and then the attributes, I think, guide another, you know, part of it. And, you know, it's always a process, and it's ever evolving. I definitely don't have it all figured out, but the more that I teach, the more that I train, the more I kind of figure out my game, the easier it is to, you know, help my students get better. No, that's cool. That's interesting. I mean, you're the first person who kind of brought that up on the podcast, and that's awesome that you're catering to each individual student, like, as best as you can. Obviously, it's hard, you know, when you have a couple hundred students, but that's cool that you make that extra effort to implement different games to different people. Nice. I appreciate that. Sure. Blew my mind right now. Yeah. Just thinking about it, I'm like, fuck, temperament. Wow. Yeah. What's your temperament, Zito? I'm too calm. Way too. I'm way just too like calm. In jiu-jitsu, yeah, for sure. Yeah. Yeah. That's kind of my problem too, I would say. Like, so I have a tendency to be a little too patient and a little bit too relaxed. It's kind of hard for me to get started. Yeah. But I have a little bit too aggressive of a game to be able to play that. So the positions that I like don't really match my temperament that much. I have to kind of remind myself, like, okay, this is a fight. You have to be aggressive. You got to get it there in the pocket. And especially as I've gone up the belts, brown and black, I've really had to say, okay, I have to start from the first second of the match. Otherwise, I'm going to get behind the 8 ball, and then things start to the wheels start falling off.
Because you don't really have that, like, blue. I don't know about purple yet, but like, white and blue. Let's just say that's my experiences, right? You have some time. Like, they're going to make a mistake. They're going to make mistakes. But when you get up that ladder and you're at brown, black, not a lot of guys making mistakes. So once you get behind that ball, you're just like fucking playing catch up.
For sure. Like when I roll with you, Zito, I know what you're doing. You're doing this to get a reaction over here.
Right, yeah.
Because you're expecting me to fuck up, but I'm kind of past that.
You're past that,
yeah.
It's annoying. Plus he knows me very, very well. We've been training a long time together.
Yeah.
And
I don't fall for your tricks.
He don't fall for anything. I almost enjoy. I enjoy more rolling with people who don't know me or people who, don't know my whole game, which is the majority of people. But him is my worst roll. It's like it's a nightmare for me.
So do you guys get in kind of the same stale positions?
No, he just destroys me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just destroys me.
Guys in the locker room are like, "Oh my God, Zito's guard is so hard to pass." I'm like, "Zito, that
fucking bad."
I'm like, "What guard?"
He's like, because it's so frustrating. I'm just like, fucking ball, and maybe it's probably also mental in my head because I know he beats me all the time, and I just like psych myself out when I go into it. I'm just like, I forget what to do. I'm almost like expecting to get beat. So I just gotta.
We have a black belt out from Brazil, Gabriel Wilcox, and he's smaller than Zito, actually.
Well, he's shorter than me.
Yeah, he's
weighs more than me though.
Yeah, not by much. He's really
about
tiny.
15, 20 pounds more.
Anyway, he's friends with Maneko. So Andre went to Brazil for 2 weeks to visit his mom, and Gabriel came out here. And they basically did an apartment swap. Like Andre's teaching at his gym and he's teaching here, and it's pretty cool. And but I rolled with him today, man, and he just was passing my guard ever so slowly. Nothing hurt. I wasn't being smashed, but I couldn't get a De La Riva hook. I couldn't get an underhook. I couldn't post on a hip. I was just like, I'm being passed. Slowly. And then I was passed. Yeah. I couldn't get it. He's been grappling for 30 years, but still, it's one of those things like you were saying, just that perfect position,
Yeah, sometimes I remember, I've always traveled and trained a lot because in Iowa we didn't have a ton of jiu-jitsu, so I'd be making it down to Chicago. That's how I met Mark. Trained with, I remember the old school Carlson open mats where Manenko was a purple belt, Izzy was a purple belt. Everybody was training there and meeting everybody. But that reminds me. So when I was a blue belt, I was teaching at Militich Fighting Systems. So I was in pretty good shape, and I was like, I'm a blue belt. I can hang with anybody. Right. And I went to DC and I trained. I stopped at Ryan Hall's gym. So I go and I roll with Ryan Hall, and I was like, I get done rolling, and I was like, I didn't have a guard that entire roll. As soon as he started doing anything, he was around my guard, and I'd never seen a leg drag before. This was before they were super popular, and I was like, he was just using this magic, and then he was around my guard, and then he was attacking my back, and it was like I never had a guard, and it's it's really cool to have the opportunity for you guys, to be able to train with somebody like that just is shredding it in a way that you're like, well, I'm trying to do moves. It doesn't hurt. It isn't like they're just cross facing me to death. They're just kind of doing magic and then magicking their way around my guard.
Right. Yeah. And I'm way bigger than him.
Way bigger. Yeah,
nothing. I couldn't do anything to him. So there's hope for you, Zito. Basically, that was the point I was trying to make.
Thank you. I know there's hope. Otherwise, I wouldn't be in it still. If everyone was like, oh, that's it. I've just seen so many levels, so many people. I've rolled with so many great guys, and everyone's story is the same thing. We were where you were at one point.
Yeah.
You're always escalating. You're always getting better. And that's what keeps me going back. I mean, constant. I just love it. It's just that constant improvement.
Who's the best passer in the world, John, in your opinion?
That, it's definitely a tough question. After rolling with Lepre, I mean, that's the first thing that's on my mind.
Right. Because he's
Uh,
definitely one of them, right? He's top 3 for sure. Like, it depends what kind of style you might like to watch better, but
yeah.
who else would you put up there with him?
I'll give you who I like to watch, who I
Okay.
like to emulate. I love Rodolfo's passing. Rodolfo Vieira, like, he used the gi so effectively. He moved so well, like so technical. And he's a big, strong dude, and is just so sharp, like excellent footwork, excellent everything. I trained, or I was down there, and I was down at like Abu Dhabi. I randomly came into like an Abu Dhabi camp down at Cyborgs. I was like going down on vacation, and then all of a sudden it was like Abu Dhabi camp. So there's like Cyborg, Rodolfo's in the room, like Gutenberg's there, Dante's there, Dante Leon. There's Gabriel Hosha. So it's like a room full of like ultra heavyweights, like getting ready for Abu Dhabi. That was the year that was probably 2 years ago, maybe even 3. And I was watching Rodolfo roll, and it was just beautiful. I mean, everything he did, he was just excellent footwork. He can pass far, can pass tight. I'm a big fan. Definitely a fan of Lepre. Low, obviously, is an amazing guard passer. Very explosive, very grippy. That's something that, like, when I first started training, a lot of the times I would go with a lot of no-gi guys, right? In the Midwest, there's a lot of no-gi guys. There weren't too many, at least in Iowa, like Brazilians that came up. So we're like, okay, we watched a couple like Royce Gracie videos and we wrestled. So let's do some no-gi. I mean, basically it was like jiu-jitsu without real grips. It was like close guard. And so that was a big thing for me, is because basically from white until the end of blue belt, even getting into purple belt, I was basically doing no-gi and gi. And I had a few things, I'd collar choke people, and I'd grab the collar, but like the type of technical gripping that goes into the elite level passing was something that really took me a long time to develop, and I'm still, working on that.
Now, because I'm thinking when you say technical gripping, can you explain that a little bit more?
Sure. So like, especially with my guard, as I was coming up, I would just like outwork them, right? So I was in pretty good shape. I was pretty flexible. And if somebody got better grips than me, then I'd just throw my back on the floor and just wiggle and squiggle and scramble and try to recover from whatever position. Then, eventually I get them into something kind of tight and then start to work from there. Versus like, if you watch, people with like a really good spider guard, they're getting their grips right away, putting you into their position. And it's almost, you watch guys, and a lot of it is just like this grip fighting battle. When you watch high level jiu-jitsu, you see this, them in these positions where nobody's doing anything and they're just setting up their grips. And I think that both with passing and with, playing guard, and especially with playing guard, people with a really good open guard in the gi are using their grip system to basically make it like a closed guard, right? So if they get the grips that they want, there's no way that you are going to pass their guard without breaking those grips and clearing whatever frames they put in the way. And that was something that I was like, I don't know, grips. Well, I don't need grips. They hurt my fingers. And so that's something that I've started to kind of pick up on the back end now.
Mm-hmm. Would you have a favorite grip that you liked? What's your go-to, like initially? Because you're a passer, or are you a guard player?
I do a little bit of both.
Okay, so for guard, what are you gripping first?
A lot of the times I'm trying to get, so because I'm not a great gripper, and over the years I got a desk job, so I've gotten a little bit less flexible. The hips don't move quite like they used to. Okay. So I used to be able to kind of play, like throw my legs up in the air, invert, that kind of thing. That's been a lot less pleasant for me. And so a lot of the times now my game is a little bit more wrestling, getting to single-legged X, and then coming up on things or looking for sweeps and getting into like tight passing positions, maybe a little bit of half guard. So a lot of the times, like if I'm dealing with a standing passer and I'm not digging the grip fight battle there, I'm going to try to hug around a leg and go shin to shin, because it's a way to nullify their grips most of the time, and then maybe I'm going to feed a lapel through or something like that.
Are you grabbing the heel, or are you gripping the pants?
Usually I'm hugging around the leg.
You're hugging the
so I'm
leg?
like
You're
sitting
like
up.
behind the knee.
You're behind the knee?
Yeah. So I'm going to be in like sitting guard, leaning forward, trying to get him to step close enough to be able to get a hold of that.
Nice. Man. So many games out there. It's so fascinating.
Yeah.
Isn't it crazy?
You like that shin on shin game?
That's typically what I gravitate towards.
Okay.
And play
In the gi too?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Especially in the gi for me because I don't like to have people grab my pants. It makes my life really difficult. So
Yeah,
if I
it
can
does
hug
suck.
that leg,
Right.
then I don't have to worry about those, toriandos, that kind of thing. So I like to get attached to them.
Right. That's smart.
Yeah, it is. So you're from Iowa originally?
Originally from West Virginia, but I basically grew up there.
Oh, yeah. So then when did you start jiu-jitsu and how did that whole thing work out for you?
Sure. So I guess I'll start in high school. So I was 16, I was 300 pounds, never did a sport before, and I saw The Ultimate Fighter, and I was like, I could do that. That's awesome. So I lost a bunch of weight. I got down to like 170.
Wait, how
3 bills in high school?
you got down to 170? How'd you do that?
Diet.
Really?
Yeah.
Diet
really.
and exercise, how everyone else
Not
does.
even,
Right.
yeah, right.
It's a diet exercise.
Not even
Easy.
a lot of exercise, like just dieting.
Stop drinking pop.
Right, pretty much, or eating much of anything. So then I went to the University of Iowa, and I actually changed last minute. So I was gravitating between like Iowa and Iowa State. I wasn't really sure where I wanted to go. And then the year before, a jiu-jitsu club started at the University of Iowa, and I was like, okay, well, I want to do jiu-jitsu. So I signed, I changed. I ended up going to the University of Iowa. And the first day of my freshman year, I started training. That was back in 2006. And there was a blue belt teaching, one blue belt, and probably 40 white belts. And kind of one thing led to another, and I never really looked back. So I started training. It started off being like 3 times a week, and then got bumped up to 4 or 5 times a week.
But you never made it to the UFC?
Yeah, I know, right? Well, and then, so the funny thing was, so we're about 60 miles from Militich Fighting Systems from the Quad Cities. And so one of our coaches, and they would come up, so they would, I had a coach that would come up and stay for like a month, a couple times a year, and teach at different places there. And then he had a connection with somebody that was at Militich, this other black belt who moved up basically to work at he had like worked in like financial processes, that kind of thing at some company. They had like a system that they developed in Brazil that brought him to like this small town in Iowa, and he started training at Militich. So I started to go down there and take classes from him. And this is like right around 2007, 2008. And then he was getting ready to move back to Brazil. And so they were like, hey, do you want to, keep teaching the gi program at Militich? And I was like, well, sure, that sounds great. So for 5 years when I was or about 4 years when I was in college, I would drive down 2 or 3 times a week, teach kid classes, teach adult classes, go to the pro classes. So I got to train with a lot of the MMA guys. So got some good no-gi coming up.
Yeah. Man.
Yeah, Pat seems like a cool dude.
Yeah.
Did you hear that episode when he was on Rogan?
Yeah, I did.
Like he runs like 150-mile races and shit.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
That can't be good for you.
I mean, he's doing it.
Yeah, I guess. You didn't get into that, John?
No.
No. Yeah.
No, but Pat, like when Pat was in the room, it was like everybody was going really hard. That was one of the, Pat's a big fan of like the Dan Gable mentality, the wrestler mentality. And it was like, you're going to go and go and go, and you're going to mentally break the other person. I hadn't really done any sports before. I was like, I want to do some jujitsu, and I'm hoping to like do some magic and trick you. And then, you go there and like, I'm one of the least physical people there. I mean, sure, I lost a bunch of weight. I've been training jiu-jitsu a couple of years, but I was still kind of like Bambi, right? Like I'm like leanish, but I don't really know how to use my body.
Right.
So it was a really good atmosphere to go against those, really athletic people, and have to figure out how to use jiu-jitsu to outsmart them. But then at the same time, recognize that like if you push the pace and if you keep going, the people will eventually break, and that hard work pays off. That was one of the like biggest lessons I learned from militage, is that they just would work and work and work, and then when you go compete, it's like, oh, that's cute. Like you think you train, like no, you don't even understand like where the breaking point is.
Right.
So.
Was he big into conspiracies back then?
Not as much. Didn't come on the mats that much back then.
No.
He has a little bit more free time, I think, now that he's not coaching. So.
Is that what it is? Free time? Yeah.
That free time, man.
I know. Idle hands.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I learned recently, I was listening, and I haven't finished that podcast from Joe Rogan, Matthew Walker, he's a neuroscientist and like a sleep study guy. Oh my God, dude. I've been living it wrong my entire life.
What's up?
Dude, 4 hours of sleep, not good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not good at all. Like, I had that mentality where I was like,
I'll sleep when I'm dead, bro.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Exactly what Joe Rogan said.
That guy.
And I was like, I don't notice, not having a lot of sleep. It doesn't bother me. Like, I don't think it doesn't.
Yeah.
Because I don't know any other way. But according to this guy, he's like, no, you actually live less if you don't get enough sleep. You actually shorten your lifespan without proper sleep. And I was like, wait, what? So people who are like trying to stay awake because they're living life,
right?
You're actually shortening your life.
Yeah, for sure. Like rest, dude.
Yeah. 8 to 9 hours.
How much sleep are you getting, John?
I'm trying to get 8.
Yeah.
But not usually quite that. Maybe like 7.
He's saying the average now is like 6.9.
Yeah, I'm getting
like
around
that.
6.
Yeah. Fuck. I need to start sleeping. Just gotta do it now, to stay healthy. Fuck. Man, it's so weird. I really enjoy podcasts. I like Joe Rogan's podcast a lot, and I just love that. Before, when I was younger, we didn't have that type of like outlet. What are you gonna do? Go to the library and try to read?
Sure.
I never think about sleep studies, but it's so cool that we have podcasts. It's like, oh, there's a scientist coming on, or a neurosurgeon, or whatever, and all of a sudden you just get woke. I hate using that term, but you just kind of like wake up, like, wait, I've been totally doing this wrong. And now it's like, fuck, I have to start thinking about, I talk about diet, we talk about, nutrition and, working out and, staying healthy and, the thing that we think we're doing right. We're like, oh, all right, 4 hours enough, 5, whatever. We're totally doing it wrong. It's fascinating, so I'm going to try, to get more rest. What the fuck?
Oh, all right.
See how I feel.
And it's tricky too, because like on one hand you're like, okay, I need to sleep, but then I also like, does that cut out a workout? Does like, okay, am I going to not lift now? Is that where I'm going to make up that hour? Like where does it add up? And at what point do you just need to like tough through it?
He was even saying that you actually aren't, like, you're learning in your sleep. So say you're like, we're training jiu-jitsu and we're going through it and we don't get enough sleep that night. We actually doing ourselves a disservice because we actually learn more in our sleep based on, like, say sleep on it, that whole thing, sleep on it,
really?
problem. Yeah. It works across the board. It's not just for mathematics, like sleep on it, you'll figure it out tomorrow. It works all across the board.
Yeah.
In your entire life, everything is going to be better. You're actually learning your sleep.
I didn't know that.
You got to listen to this podcast.
What's the name of it?
It's Matthew Walker. It's Joe Rogan's.
Okay.
It's a recent podcast, but it's fascinating. I'm not doing it any justice. You got to listen to it. It's truly fascinating. And I'm just like, fuck, really reevaluating myself. I'm like, fuck, well, I'm really not doing it right.
There's too much distraction now. Now with the internet, I mean, everyone's got a box at their house that has all of the answers to everything that's ever been discovered ever.
Right.
Yeah.
It's
like, how do you not just sit there and just like jump on Google, jump on YouTube, and hours go by.
Yeah.
And you're like, shit, it's midnight. I got to go to bed.
Exactly.
I'm waking up at 5,
And then you're amped. Like, I can't. Like, if I start playing on Facebook right before bed, I'm like not going to get to sleep. Like, I have to like shut it off like a ways before.
That's what he actually says. That light, like from people reading iPads and stuff like that, actually, you're actually making yourself stay awake longer as opposed to just reading like a hardcover book. You should not be, TV should be an hour before you even go to bed to wind it down. It's crazy, dude.
Yeah.
It's fascinating. And there's like, this guy's got all the studies. He's legit. I mean, he's no joke when when you hear him talk, you're gonna be like, holy fuck, I
Yeah.
gotta really think about what I want to do with my life now, because it's a big change. I mean, I think I'm getting a lot of stuff done, but I'm probably not doing it as efficient as I could be doing it.
Yeah.
I probably need that extra time because I'm not maximized. I'm not maximum efficiency. I'm foggy. I'm this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When you think you're getting stuff done, maybe I'm not really. So, I don't know. Whatever. Still trying to work. Hey, man, everything's a work in progress, right?
Right? Gonna
Constant.
be learning till we die.
Yeah. Hopefully a lot longer than sooner.
Right.
Fuck. Get some rest.
So over at Militage, was it like Matt Hughes and Jens Pulver and Tim Silva, all those guys still stopping in when you were there?
So I've never met or I never trained with Matt, but just about everybody else. So they would kind of go through phases. So I was down there right after, I don't know if you guys remember, but like in, I think 2008, or maybe 2007, like Matt Hughes, Robbie Lawler, and then the boxing coach went down and started the hit squad in St. Louis. So there was like a period where those guys were gone, but Tim was always there. Jens would be kind of in and out, but I've had a chance to roll with him a lot. Robbie went through kind of a lot of different things. So he was down in Hit Squad for a while, and then he was out in Arizona with CB Dalloway for a little bit, and then he moved back when he had a baby. And so he randomly comes into a class, this was probably towards the end of my tenure there, and we trained together all the time. Like this was right as he was transitioning, like the end of his Strikeforce career, right before he got into the UFC. So I love watching. Robbie's one of my favorite fighters. Like super super cool dude. Like very good on the ground. Like
really?
you don't see it because
right.
Robbie just wants to hit you, he'll just like stand up and hit you.
Right.
But he's legit on the ground. He has a really good butterfly guard, and he'll get to the top. He's an excellent wrestler. He does this weird thing. He rides turtle just about like as good as anybody I've ever felt. He'll actually like do this kind of weird chicken wing that I haven't ever been able to quite figure out or ever had emulated. And I've gone with a lot of good wrestlers. And then he has just excellent submission defense. Like his like guillotine defense is sick. I have a very good guillotine. It's kind of one of my things, and I would just quit. I'm like, I'm not going to go for this because every time I go for it, you're just going to pass my guard with it. So
wow.
Robbie's really good. It was a really fun time to be able to train with him a lot.
Now, did he train in the gi or was he just always no gi? Oh yeah, both.
Yep, I have a picture with him and Tim Sylvia in the gi. Robbie was a blue belt. Tim was a purple. Drew McFedries. You guys remember him?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Drew is a beast. Didn't have a ton of fights in the UFC, but like, man, that guy is a physical specimen. Was really, really solid on the ground.
Is Tim still training?
Not too much.
I saw him at the UFC event years ago. He didn't see me. He literally walked through me. I had to move.
He walked over you?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Like I'm like, he didn't see me. Like I clearly didn't see it because he just walked. Literally, I had to move out of his way.
You're damn right. You move out of Tim's way.
Obviously.
Yeah.
Because he's such a big dude. I'm like, excuse me. Sorry. Is that in your way?
Right.
What the fuck? Oh, yeah. Interesting guy, man.
Yeah.
Dude, he's giant, man.
So who's Robbie's black belt under?
He's not a black belt. I think he's still a blue belt, actually.
What?
So
technically a blue belt, right?
Yeah. So he went. So I don't think he really trains. I mean, I don't know for sure, but
Right.
At that point, he would like come to my classes in the gi, and then we do the pro class. And he was a blue belt, and it wasn't under us. I think maybe he had done a little bit of gi when he was out in Arizona or something like that, and then came back. And I know he was down at ATT, so I imagine there were a lot of good folks, but a lot of the times I think they tend to focus more on no gi striking, that kind of thing, rather than putting on the pajamas. So I think he's still a blue belt. So
Right.
look
I mean,
out, Chicago Open.
Yeah. Yeah, good luck. Is he in your class?
No, Robbie can't make lightweight.
No.
He probably walks around at what, 190 probably?
He's
fighting at
actually
70.
really lean. Like even when he was fighting at 85, he would walk around at like 85. Like he's shorter than me, like bigger shoulders, like very explosive. But he isn't that big of a guy.
Yeah.
Man.
Why don't you belt him, John? Give him his purple.
John Jones just get his blue belt?
Yeah, I guess.
That's a weird thing, right?
That is weird.
I did never.
He submitted Dan Henderson.
He'd submit a lot of people.
Yeah. Shouldn't you automatically get your brown belt if you do that? Like,
Leota,
just automatically.
Leota Machida slept him. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, but I'm saying in a pure grappling match, he
Pure
beat
grappling.
Henderson.
Yeah, I
Remember
know.
that? Yeah.
Pure grappling. Okay, well, whatever. It works.
There's some like videos of him doing a naga too.
Yeah, I remember seeing
Pretty-
that also. Man, I hope he gets back in the UFC. I really do. I want him to see him go to heavyweight.
Dylan Dennis's debut is tonight.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm going to see that.
Are you going?
Yeah.
No kidding.
nice.
Bellator. I was like, I wasn't really sure what I was going to do, and I came into town and I saw the sign. I was like, oh, that's here. Cool. I'll watch
Sweet.
Fedor fight. I've never seen him live. Like,
Yeah.
big fan from the old days. So
Did you ever fight MMA?
yeah. So I did. So when I graduated college, I like took a year and I was like, okay, I'm going to train full time. And so I was down at Militage all the time, striking all the time. And I done a little bit of boxing, a little bit of kickboxing, not like nothing crazy.
Right.
And then I took a fight and they had everybody kept pulling out because I'd been at Militage for a number of years, and that was they because I was an amateur, right, a brand new person, so like they kind of was like a revolving door of people. But then I did get one fight, and it was like the third opponent who I think had to put down his beer before he hopped in the ring. But I got a straight ankle lock in like a minute. I think
Nice.
that was like 5-6 years ago.
Awesome. Yeah.
Doing leg locks before they were cool.
Yeah, right. That's what's up.
And then actually, I had one more before that. So in Iowa, like we had this like amateur MMA culture, right? And when I started jiu-jitsu, there weren't like IBJJF regional tournaments. Like the only thing was like a Naga, and it was like twice a year. So I was like a 2-stripe white belt. And there was this bar downtown in Iowa City that used to have fights. They would like bring a ring and you could sign up that day and you could like have an MMA fight. So 2-stripe white belt John, who's been training for 4 months, has no other training at all, was like, well, I'll do that. So I did that, and I went against like this high school wrestler that was much more physical than me, and it went the distance, and there wasn't really judges, but I probably did not win that one. But yeah, that was probably in 2007, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So you got any fights coming up?
No, I'm good.
Not MMA, but jiu-jitsu wise.
Nothing really scheduled. So
Really?
I made my master's debut this year, so that was kind of nice.
Hey, welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome to the family.
So that was the first time at the Chicago Open. So I'm planning on doing Masters Worlds, but haven't really decided what other tournaments. Maybe something this summer.
No fight to win, huh?
I applied for the first one. I didn't get into the first one, and then like I work a full-time job too in addition to teaching, and so the last one, it was like on a Friday, and so it's like there's just no way that I could be here on a Thursday for weigh-ins and that kind of thing. And then this one, it just kind of slipped past me. So Mark's been on me. I'm going to apply for the next one, Seth. So
Yeah, I'd like to see it. I mean, I know you did well at grappling games. Mm-hmm. I didn't do that well that night, but you did good. That was good. Wanderlust is a good event. That'd be a good one for you to do. That's a really cool event.
What's your favorite type of rule set to compete under?
I like points. I don't really care for the sub only too much. I like legs. I like twisters. I like spine. Any of that stuff. In the gi, I would say I really like IBJJF rules. And no gi, I probably like IBJJF rules, except all legs and spine locks and everything.
Yeah. You like heel hooks, huh? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Think the IBJJF should allow heel hooks in no-gi at least for black belts?
Ooh, I don't know. I mean, that's my preferred rule set to compete under. I don't know.
How do you think the game would change if it did? If the IBJJF today said, "All right, you could heel hook tomorrow."
It'd be interesting, in the gi or in everything.
What do you think? Yeah, let's just say everything. Heel hooks, boom, in the game.
So I think, like, especially in the gi, it wouldn't really change anything. The guys that are winning everything, we're going to be able to defend them. You know, in the same way, like if you watch ADCC, most of the time, like the guys that are winning in the gi are the guys that are winning in like, you know, no gi too. Now they're like the DDS guys and Craig Jones definitely are an exception to the rule.
Yeah.
And I think that like you're going to get more and more of those people that have really figured out the game. I mean, obviously they've like brought leg locks to a whole new level. You know, I thought I knew leg locks, and, you know, I would go to Nagas and I would be like, okay, well, it's just, you know, when I was coming up, that was like one of the bigger tournaments, and it was like, okay, if I know heel hooks, then I don't even have to do jujitsu. I can just fall back on a leg and get a, you know, 20-second heel hook. And I did a lot of that. And so, you know, you think you have it figured out, and then you see guys like that, and it's like, whoa, this is a whole different animal. Or I trained in January down at Nice Guys Submission Fighting in Kentucky, and those guys they have the leg game figured out too. I was like, you don't even realize, you know, how ignorant you are until you roll with someone that like really, really understands legs, and it's just evolved so much in just the past couple of years. You know, it's crazy how quickly the sport moves. You know, I remember there was a period where like the bolo was magic, and then like these heel hooks are coming out of nowhere, the honey hole, all that stuff. Like it's magic, you know, until you get it figured out. But
yeah, it's interesting.
I don't think it would change too much. I think at like lower belts, people get hurt more. I think at black belt, probably people would get hurt more. Because with the heel hooks, you typically like they end in screams. So
unless you know you're caught, like I, you know, Cyborg versus Gordon Ryan and ADCC.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just so like Cyborg's like, all right. Got me.
Yeah,
like
Chael Sonnen, the same thing.
Just you got me.
Like, yeah, tap.
He can't get out. Once you feel that,
Yeah.
Like I rolled with Eddie Cummings. Now I'm like, no. I mean, I'm good.
Yeah.
Like as soon as he gripped, I was like, okay, I'm good.
Yeah.
You don't got to crank that. Yeah, I'm got. You know, I think the people, you know, who for whatever think they could fight out of that.
Well, I was at the Craig Jones seminar, and he said the same thing. He said, People hurt themselves in heel hooks.
Yeah.
They roll the wrong way, or, you know, it's like, it's not me.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
I mean, I've been heel hooked 250 times. I've never been injured.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I think it'd be interesting. I'd want to see reaping more than anything in IBJJF. I just don't get why you can't reap. That's just a weird thing. Like, okay, don't put your leg across.
You think all these rule sets are like, you know, bad for the community in a sense of like not, you know, everyone's not on the same, you know, like the DDS guys, they went sub only, you know, and they went no-gi, and they're just doing that, and they're the best at that, you know. And then there's the gi guys that are IBJJF for life, and that's what they do. And
yeah, but then you got Felipe Pena, who subbed, you know, both are good guys, you know.
Yeah, I mean Felipe is definitely doing both, but
it's. I mean, I don't know. I mean, people bring him up, but I don't think he gets enough credit. I mean, he took out Tonin, right, and he took out Gordon Ryan.
Yeah,
and Buchecha too.
Fuck,
but it's hard, you know, because I like to do it all the point systems, gi, no gi, whatever. Yeah. But you know, then you're kind of the jack of all trades, and you're fighting a guy who probably just does this rule set, just concentrates on no gi, you know, like.
Yeah.
As a coach, it's really difficult too, because I mean, you know, I'm put in a situation where it's like, okay, we're getting ready for a tournament. What are the rules for this tournament, right? Like, you know, for a while it was like, okay, all I'm going to push is IBJJF. This is the big tournament. You know, it's easy because it's like, okay, we're going to train under this rule set.
Yeah.
And then you have these little podunk tournaments, and sometimes they have really weird rules. And it's like, okay, well, like, especially for us in Iowa, like we want to be, you know, like I have a lot of people that do a lot of stuff, right? They don't want to drive 4 hours to come compete. You know, that's something that we've been doing, you know, for years and years and years. But if these tournaments start to pop up locally, or, you know, even other ones in Chicago, and they have a completely different rule set, then it's like I'm doing my students a disservice. And then I'm going to end up spending time just covering some of the things that, you know, we don't typically do in class, just to make sure that they're not out there and caught with something that they've never seen before versus working on our A game. So as a coach, I don't really care. I think there's rules that I like more, rules that I don't like more, but I'd rather see consistency, because I can train you and I can make you good if I have a consistent rule set. But when you have that, like, everybody does everything different. I completely agree with you. I think it does kind of a disservice to the students, because it makes it really difficult for them to really excel. They're changing rules at every tournament that they do.
Yeah. And now with the whole EBI rule set, now you got to take your training that you're training now, doing your regular training, whatever it is. And now you got to throw in, your, escape times and your, rear naked choke defense. And just that is its own little tournament amongst itself, right? That could be its own tournament.
And really, really good guys never want to train that shit, because they're like, I would never let you get on my back.
Right.
You would never get there.
Right.
But now
we got to start there.
Now we got to start there.
And now I got to train this. I got to escape quick. It's like we're training all this stuff, and now we got now we got to set time aside for that, because there's no other tournament that we have to set time aside for a specific rule set per se, right?
Right.
But EBI, you have to train your armbar escapes and your rear naked choke escapes. You have to. It's like, no, stop that, and we're gonna time you now on how fast you get out.
Right.
What the fuck? That's it's one. It's like a whole nother thing.
Yeah.
It's weird.
I really don't
Eddie.
Seriously. I really don't like the EBI rule set.
Yeah.
I think that, like, I have no problem with sub only and like a decision at the end. That works. But I think what ends up happening is, like, if you don't have a decision at the end and the only objective is to submit the other person, then what ends up happening is this person is playing like fetal guard for 10 minutes and then has the opportunity to get out with the best escape time. And I think that that's like, everybody, that group tends to say, oh, points make you stall. And it's like, have you watched these matches? Like, I mean, you're just going to lay there in fetal guard. It's really hard to tap somebody that's, that's doing
not
that.
Engaging, right.
And then on top of it, it's like, okay, well, we don't have silly points. Like, if this was a fight, what would happen? Right? Like, there's a reason that the point system is structured the way that it is that it's supposed to make you combat effective. Now, it's not perfect, but I think that it's better than laying in fetal guard for 10 minutes and then, at the end, something, get quickest escape time or something like that.
Yeah. I tend to agree with you.
I agree.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. I like the fight to win rule set. I like, the judges at the end, to me, it's exciting because guys are trying to, get on the good graces of the judges, right? They want to make a good showing. So they're going to attack positions. They're going to try. And I think for the most part, they all do really well, like judging. I think there's only been a few times where I was like, it could have been, But for the most part, just like in the UFC, you've got 3 judges. Let's not try to reinvent the wheel. What's working now? Now, obviously, the UFC has its own issues because it's MMA, not boxing. They adapted boxing rules, and they're trying to work with those, But I just think, I just think it works. It just makes sense, or no time limit. Fuck it.
I like the way Kasai did it. That was.
Yeah.
I mean, I was
a little confused when I was watching. I was like, okay, what's going on now? And then because you just don't know all the. The points start now. I see the clock with the points, but no one's getting any points. But I see them doing stuff like IBJF, like, oh, that should have been a point, but they didn't get a point. I don't know.
I feel like the sub only guys have. There's like a common misconception that like if you're in the IBJJF, like you're going to get stalled out, and I just don't see it. I mean, there's a ref right there controlling that. You're boom penalty. Let's go move.
I see that too. Yeah.
It's.
Yeah, I don't know.
Did you guys see Josh Hinger's recent post?
No,
I did not.
Okay, so this is a picture of him.
Is that
like
me down there?
This looks like Mount. See that?
Okay, yeah.
Or whatever, but he writes, in my opinion, complaining about stalling is the same as complaining about someone whooping your ass over and over again. It's pointless, you look petty, and you're blaming your own shortcomings on someone else. If someone shut you down and nullified your game, maybe your jiu-jitsu is the problem.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, I mean,
like guys who say like, hey, he just stalled me out, he wrestle fucked me. It's like, why didn't you sweep him? Why didn't you attack? Why didn't you know what I mean? Like maybe maybe that's all it takes to beat you.
I think like it's one thing, and I think like Josh, that's very directed at the person getting stalled out. Like I do think that it is in bad taste to complain and say that the other person stalled you out. Mm-hmm. As like a venue for putting on tournaments, though, it's your job to make sure that there are stalling calls, right? I mean, so like, and as the person doing it, I mean, as the person stalling, like, man, if I'm up by an advantage and we have 10 seconds left, I'm sure going to stall. I mean, that's the rule set, right? It's being able to play the game.
Yeah.
And I definitely think that it is in bad taste when people complain that the other person stalled them out. But at the same time, if you want to make an effective, tournament and effective rule set, I think slapping on those stalling calls is one of the best ways to create that type of engagement.
Yeah. You need some type of penalty because it's going to happen.
Yeah.
It's going to happen. I mean, there's no way around it. I mean, as exciting as we want to make jiu-jitsu, even in EBI, you've got people who don't engage. You have some guy sitting on his butt scooting, and the other guy sitting on the outside just circling him. We've seen it so many times. Okay, so what's that? That's not exciting.
Yeah.
It seems that everyone's just now waiting just to get their hand raised, not really worried about the money. They want that belt. They just want to escape or do whatever.
Yeah.
Get to that perfect position. Because they're afraid of, Eddie Cummings going to leg lock them. So they're just going to sit on the outside and wait. So.
Did you guys watch Kasai?
Yeah.
That was a good card. Did you see it, John?
I didn't get to see it.
Yeah. One thing I thought was weird was they brought out Gio Martinez before they brought out Nicky Ryan. They brought Nicky out last, which I thought was a little bit disrespectful. I mean, Nicky's a purple belt. Mm-hmm. Gio's the black belt. He should have came out last, I think.
I did see that, actually. I forgot. I just didn't see the main event. It was like going on pretty late, and I dozed off.
You had to get your 8 hours,
Eddie.
dude.
Yeah. Sorry, Eddie and Hanato, but yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, I don't know why I would do that. What did you think of that fight?
Which one? Gio and Nicky Ryan?
Yeah.
I thought it was awesome. I thought it was really tight. Both guys are really good. I think if it wasn't for that triangle in the last 30 seconds, they might have given it to Gio.
Yeah.
It was just so close.
It's
but
close.
that triangle just solidified it.
Yeah.
What
do you think about what Gio said?
What did he say?
Well, at the end, when he's like, "The triangle really wasn't that tight. I wasn't going to tap." I'm like, "All right, dude. You don't have to say that.
Yeah.
You don't have to say that.
It's like
you were in a triangle. It doesn't matter if it's tight or not.
It was only going to get tighter. Like the more and more time you spend it,
you don't have to say that stuff.
Yeah, it wasn't like a perfectly 100% locked in submission, but he just slapped it on.
Right.
It was going to get there.
Yeah. You were in it.
Yeah.
We understand you weren't going to tap. I mean, we all saw that. It wasn't like you weren't.
It wasn't that deep yet.
Right.
Yeah.
But it just seemed choice. What people have to say at the end is just
it's hard to judge someone with the adrenaline and the crowd and the cameras and you're going to say some stupid shit.
Yeah.
I'm not really.
Just be humble, man.
Guys who like AJ Agazarm who like practice a routine and they know exactly what they're gonna say. Like I could judge you. I could judge that dude.
That dude's so bad. I don't even get that guy at all. Like he doesn't even just be quiet.
But
don't say.
Is he genius though? Is he?
No, he's not.
No.
What?
Hang on.
Okay, go ahead.
Let me tell you why.
Please.
Because everyone goes, I get what he's trying to do. He's trying to be the heel. But he's so bad at being the heel. So he's like annoying you even further. It's like not only is he the heel, he's a really bad heel, and that makes it even worse, which makes him essentially a really good heel. Does it not?
I don't know. You think he knows he's not good at it?
I don't know.
Or do you think he thinks he's really good at it? Depends on what he thinks.
I don't know. It is very weird.
It could be genius or it could be a joke. I don't know.
We're fucking talking about him, which is sad.
Yeah, I know. Joe Rogan didn't even comment on him. Not that I know of anyway.
Yeah.
But,
I wouldn't either.
Yeah, no.
He was probably like, who the fuck is that guy?
Yeah, I know. Oh, man. But we got a good fight to win card coming up next week.
Yeah, I'm excited.
It's really good. Yeah.
A lot of good matchups.
Man, that fight to win, man. They do a good job. I just think there's so many fights. It's another one, 30-something fights, right?
Yeah. There's a lot of black belt fights, though, which
I'm
never
like 15,
mad at.
15 black belt fights.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Can't
Can't be mad at that.
Nope, not mad at that. I mean, it's awesome. It's fucking cool, you know? And I appreciate that they post a lot, like on their Instagram. They're like, he kills it on his Instagram. Like, boom, boom, boom. Like, my whole feed's fight to win. I'm like, okay, enough. I don't know all these guys.
Right.
I wish there was another way, you know, I wish there was a simpler way of promoting a card where you get to know the guy a little bit more. Like, seeing the guy's picture, I don't really care. Like, it feels like, you know, any of us, I'm like, okay, there's Paul in a picture. But I wish there was a, like, for Instagram or Facebook, you know, you could do like those small little, you know, videos. I just wish they'd maybe do a video of the guy like talking. Let me hear this guy explain his jiu-jitsu a little bit.
Right.
You know what I mean? Then I'd maybe
that's
get a little
true.
more interested
That's
in
a
it.
good point.
You know what I mean?
Send a video in. Or
Send a
something.
video in.
Yeah.
Like, just explain your jiu-jitsu. If you do it well enough, I'm not saying it has to be like the UFC embedded that well.
Right, with
but,
the blacked out background and, you know.
Right. It'd be cool if you can do is if you can find an app that can do that, which I'm sure there are apps out there that can do stuff like that. And you know, you perfect it and say, okay, this is what we want you guys to do.
Yeah.
Go. And then the guy does it, sends it to you. There's your new poster. You know, it's the guys talking. I just think the poster game is. I don't really care for it. I mean, I'm okay. Yeah, this guy and that guy who I've never heard of. Give me more. I need to feel a bit more.
Yeah, let me get emotionally invested in the contest. Let me know the person.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Let me see if they're
20,
humble
30 seconds.
or they're arrogant or, you know.
Because that guy might be super funny. And I'd be like, oh, I don't want to see that guy. Or that guy might be an asshole. I'd be like, I want to see that guy get his ass kicked.
Yeah.
Or he might be really cool and talk something and say something that's like, well, I'm interested to see how he does.
Yeah.
As opposed to just, you know, it's a flat, you know, image of the guy, all weird stance or.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just think that as they elevate the game, I hope they get their marketing where it's like that, you know?
Oh, it's probably,
or somebody do it. I don't know. But
it's probably going that way.
that's all I like to see. But did you see, Paul, that China has introduced facial recognition, and they were actually able to catch a guy in a field of like, I think 60,000 people. They were able to catch somebody through facial recognition from cameras.
What kind of segue was that?
Well, here's what I'm getting at. You and I had a conversation. We were like, in jiu-jitsu, when they're in tournaments, I said, well, if they can have some type of like monitor where you can tell what the position guy is getting in, he can score the points as opposed to having a physical referee.
Right.
This facial recognition, if it can recognize people's faces, you can actually teach that computer to recognize body positions and who's actually winning the fight.
Stop trying to destroy art, Zito.
Okay. I'm not trying to destroy
technology.
Art. I'm just saying that even in the UFC, they can utilize that. Instead of having these outdated judges, you can actually, because they've got counts of like how many strikes, significant strikes, all that stuff. Somebody's tallying that up.
Yeah.
Now they're not scoring that based on that tally. They're scoring it based on what they look at. But if you can actually train a computer to score that fight as you would a human, we'd have a lot less, bad calls.
Is there really that big of an issue in jiu-jitsu? I mean, MMA more so than anything, but
I don't know.
You don't hear all the time like.
I mean, I've heard even like I've seen like just one of our teammates have had some bad calls in IBJJF where it cost him because these people. I'm not saying you and I personally, but there's some guys from Brazil who travel far, and been training so long, and they go to a tournament and they get one bad call. They've spent a lot of money. Where you and I, $100, all right, whatever, $100. But these guys, that's their life.
Yeah,
you've seen it, Paul, right?
Yeah.
And it's just like one bad call.
Saw a dude cry at Master Worlds.
Yeah,
fall to his knees crying.
It was sad.
Yeah, it was very sad. Purple belt Master 2.
It was Master 1. It was Master 1.
Oh, Master 1. Forgive me. That is life changing.
But I mean, hey, Paul. Everyone has their own idea of what their life is going to be. So I mean, that could be a pinnacle for him right there. You don't know.
That's true.
I feel like every sport has that. Like, it's the judges. Oh, it's the ref. Like, I'm not much of a football fan. Sorry. Sorry, Mark. But like you always hear them complaining about the refs, complaining about that kind of stuff, and so it's like I'm
I
happy
think it's going to go
enough.
digital. I think it's going to go to where we don't have referees. Everything's going to be done computerized, where they just see everything. It's just like AI, man. It's coming, Paul.
Yeah, and then I guess, and then now the robots are going to know jiu-jitsu.
Yeah,
take over.
Good luck,
huh?
Good luck fighting a robot.
Yeah, no shit.
Fucking awesome.
How do you tap on a robot? Will they feel it?
I don't know. They probably wouldn't feel it. You have to be verbal.
What if you're getting choked?
You're going to sleep, man.
John, Tipping Point. You guys rear naked choke, do you guys face crush?
No, well,
Try not to.
I say don't do it. I call it the rear naked face, but I say don't do it in the room because you're not gonna make friends.
Right.
But if you do it in competition.
I'm turned. I don't know where to stand on that because I totally get it, and for sure an academy owner would be like, don't face crush my students, you dick, but like also at the same time, like I just busted my ass to get to your back and it took me 6 minutes and now you tucked your chin. So, well, I guess moving on to something else. He tucked his chin, Right. There's nothing here anymore. Yeah. I guess I'll,
you can do the Nathan Orchard with the nose thing, He'll raise that. He'll raise it up.
Right. I just think that I'm not gonna like slap it on tight, like really hard, and like break teeth with it. But like, I for sure should start putting it on, and it's your responsibility to tap out. If you don't want your jaw, messed up. Or
see what I deal with. This is what I deal with, man. He's tough, man. He's a rough guy to roll with, man. But gotta be careful.
I'm not trying to be like rough and tough. I think it's a submission.
Okay.
There's no denying that, right? And B, you could use it at comp, so you're going to see it if you compete.
Right.
And are you doing a disservice to your training partner by showing him like, oh, you tucked your chin? Well, I guess there's nothing here anymore. You know what I mean? Like,
sort of, I agree with you.
You kind of are, aren't you?
Right.
I had a coach that was like, oh, John, no, you choke his mouth, you choke his face, you choke his nose, I don't care.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, okay, that's not really my MO, but I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Hinger at one of the Chicago Opens crushed this dude's nose. I mean, it was just forearm over the nose and just pop, like,
yeah.
The amount of strength like you have to that pulling in with your forearm strength, and just right on the bridge, it's soft little nose, like it was bleeding too.
Yeah.
I mean, he broke this dude's nose.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I don't know how you complain about that. Like as the other guy, it's like, well, maybe I shouldn't have done that. Like I've definitely been in positions in competition where, like, when I was a purple belt in the finals of Chicago Open, I'm going against Tim Spriggs, and he gets to my back and like locks a rear naked choke on my teeth, and I tapped.
Yes,
like
exactly.
That's
you got caught. Yeah.
I didn't know that because I read the rules when I first IBJJF, and it was a no-gi IBJJF. I didn't know. I read the rules like no neck cranks, and I'm like, oh fuck. So I had the choke in, and I'm like, I got to get under the fucking chin because I can't crank him. So I didn't do what I should have done because I was so worried about getting disqualified because I thought you couldn't do that. And then I learned afterwards that you could just fucking crank the shit out of him.
Dude.
What the fuck are you doing?
As long as it's disguised as a choke.
Yeah, I know. But I was just like, oh, I got to be a choke. I can't face crank him. Fuck.
I mean, what?
I lost
like,
that match.
What
it sucked.
How could you tell that the referee's going to ask the dude, are both of your arteries covered right now? Oh, they are. Okay, it's a choke. Continue.
I guess
you know what I mean?
I didn't know. I don't know because maybe they can see where my hand, I don't know. But it fucking sucks. I was dominating that fucking match, and I was like, I lost because he pointed me, and I just so unfortunate. But now I know, and I will definitely change if I ever get in that position again.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. For sure. So Tipping Point, that's the name of your school?
Yep, Tipping Point Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Did you come up with that name?
Iowa. I did.
Cool.
It took a long time. It took me like 5 months, and I was like, okay, we're going to land on this.
Okay, cool.
I like that.
What was the process to reach that?
Like, a lot of car rides with stupid names.
Well, why did you settle on Tipping Point?
So I mean, it just, it seems kind of appropriate, right? The tipping point and sweeps and things like that. And it kind of has a cool ring to it, or at least I think so.
Yeah.
We were like thinking about like gravity or stuff like that. And it's like, okay, this seems like it's kind of already been done. And it seems kind of, for me anyway, it seemed a little bit like pretentious for me to throw my name up on the door. So I was more towards like, let me name it, something that's different that can have a cool logo. So
What's the logo?
It's like a pyramid. Right?
Did I see? I don't know if I saw it. It's a pyramid.
Mm-hmm. It's like a pyramid with a ball at the top.
I dig it.
I did see it. That's right. Tipping Point.
How many students you got now?
Probably like 80 there. We have a lot of affiliates. So like I've just like accidentally been popping up lots of affiliates. Like my students start with me at the university. And the university is inherently kind of transient. So, they come for a couple of years, and then they graduate and move back home. And then there's no jiu-jitsu where they are in Iowa because they're in the town of, 40, 50,000, something like that. So we have a total of, I think 6 affiliates in Iowa. So one in the Quad Cities, one up in Dubuque, and a couple other smaller towns. So Fairfield and Fort Madison, Iowa University, and then up in Cedar Rapids. So,
That's awesome.
yeah.
So you're like the reason for the whole jiu-jitsu scene in Iowa.
No,
or will be, you know what I mean? Like
there's definitely some folks making waves in other parts of the state, but yeah, we've grown a lot, and we take a big group to a lot of different stuff. So I'm lucky to have a good team.
That's awesome. I've been to Iowa one time when I was a little kid, Dubuque, Iowa, actually.
Okay.
I went to. I was with my uncle and my 2 cousins, and we drove. My uncle liked just take us on trips in the summer, so he took us, and we went to the House on the Rock.
Okay.
Okay, so
What is this?
what's that?
House on the Rock.
You don't know what the House on the Rock? Oh my God, have you been there?
I have not been there.
God, you guys got to get there.
Okay.
Quick. The House on the Rock. It's like this giant mansion, okay, / museum of this really wealthy guy who just bought this crazy shit throughout this whole house. Then they've got like a car museum inside there. They got the Ferris wheel. They got a bunch, not Ferris wheel.
Is it built on a rock?
It's built on a rock. Yeah,
Oh,
they have
wow.
this room called the Room of Infinity, where you walk out and this ledge comes out the rock and extends past, and there's nothing like holding it up. It's just bizarre. You walk out there and you look down. You're like a few hundred feet from the ground.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's funny. If you go there and you're really high or on shrooms,
Yeah.
you're gonna have a fucking blast. I mean, you will have a blast, or it'll get really dark quick.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
There's like a doll room and it's
freaking out, man.
it's an organ room, dude. It's fucking crazy. There's like a artillery room. There's a bunch of different it's crazy. Anyway, so we go there when we were kids, and my uncle's like, okay, and I didn't want to be there anymore. After we leave, we're like, let's go back home. He must have, because this is before the internet and all that stuff. He must have got lost. We ended up in Dubuque, Iowa. Okay, and we're like, what the fuck are we doing in Iowa? He's like, oh, I want to come. So we went to a mall in Dubuque, Iowa, and had a Sbarro pizza. That's it. Like, you went there, probably figured out, like, had a look at the map or something, just took us to get some pizza, and then we just drove back to fucking Chicago. Like, what the fuck was that for? But that's the only time I was ever in Iowa, in Dubuque, Iowa. That's it.
Good stories. Yeah.
Sorry. I don't know.
Had this fit pizza in there somewhere, right?
It was horrible pizza, too.
Sbarro?
Yeah.
Oh, it's horrible. God. They're still around?
I think so.
In
Really?
malls.
Yeah.
Is it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Sheesh.
I mean, I'll have a slice of Sbarro still.
Really?
I mean, a slice. I'm like, I wouldn't go out of my way, but like if I was in a mall and I'm like, oh yeah, Sbarro. I don't know. I haven't had it in a decade, but I remember it being pretty good.
I think that was the first and last time I ever had it. I
Yeah.
must have been like 12 years old.
John, I know you're a competitor, so can we get your, I don't know, thoughts on competitive mindset? Like you said, it takes you a minute to get going, right? So what do you tell yourself to hype yourself up? What are you thinking about before you step on the mat?
So I think it would really, like, for me personally, it's a little bit different than, other people. I tend to be a little bit too calm. So for me, it's like, okay, I hate warming up.
Yeah, me too.
And so like, I'll pretend to warm up for a little while. I should warm up more. And then I go out there and I'm like, okay, I'm like, there's a couple things that I like always do. I always rub out my nose so that like it doesn't get broken or something like that. It's a little bit warm. Try to make sure that my hands and my feet are warm. And then it's like, okay, for the first minute, just don't make a mistake. Don't do anything stupid. Don't give up points, right? Because then it starts to kind of snowball. If a match starts going poorly, it's like, okay. And I have to remember too, even for me, I've been training and competing for like 12 years now, that it's okay if something doesn't work the first time, right? Like I have training partners in the room where there's no way I'm going to pass their guard on the first attempt or even the fifth attempt. And so sometimes when you compete, at least for me, I'm like, okay, I tried these 5 things. None of them worked. Oh, I'm out of options, right? Like everything's done. And then I start doing stupid stuff. I start taking risks that I shouldn't take, even though I'm in a fine position versus just kind of chilling, letting the match unfold. Like eventually an opportunity is going to open up. So for me right now, that's kind of where I am. It's like, okay, certain people I have different game plans for. I'm starting to play a little bit more on the feet now, depending on who I'm going against, that kind of thing. And it's like, okay, don't screw up. I'm definitely not a come out guns a-blazing kind of guy. And then throughout the course of the match, after a few minutes, then I'm into the match and it's like, oh, okay, now I'm ready to open up and take those risks and really start getting after it. But for me, it's like, okay, it's okay if it doesn't work the first time. I have to keep reminding myself of that, and to not do anything dumb, because I've definitely have a habit of jumping on submissions, and even though I'm up on points, that kind of thing, like things that I would never let my students do, and I would scream at them not to.
Of course, I can't see you screaming though. I can't ever see you scream.
Have you been to the Open?
No, I've never seen you scream. You're so mellow. You're so like, super chill and mellow and nice and calm. I can't see him get all hyped up and like yelling like Mineko. When I hear someone scream, I'm like, I think Mineko right away.
That's fair.
I can't see you go. I can't see you going
Not
there.
Not quite. Yeah,
okay,
no.
I like the way you said that though. Like, let the match unfold.
Yeah.
Like, sit back, chill, and let the match unfold. Because the match it's its own thing now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The atmosphere and the people and the ref and the thing. It's kind of like a beyond you. Like, just let it unfold.
Yeah.
Be patient.
That's it.
That's cool, John. I like that.
And on that note, where can people find you?
Facebook, or Tipping Point BJJ on Instagram, or Tipping Point BJJ on Facebook, or .com. So any of those are good.
Sweet. And I know we're getting Bellator starting pretty soon.
It is.
Yeah.
You got a little bit of a drive there.
Do I?
Yeah. It's an all-state arena, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry for cutting this short. I'm sure people want to keep hearing
Well, we have to
what
come,
you have to say.
come
Next
back
time,
out
right?
for
Or
another
you guys
one.
gotta make that trip out to Iowa, right?
Yeah. Yeah, they got to go back for that pizza.
You gotta go again. Do you have a Sbarro near you?
Just for you guys, we'll get it ordered.
Do you have
Okay,
open
good.
mats?
What's that?
Do you have an open mat?
We do on Saturdays.
Do you?
It's big. Yeah.
How far is the drive?
It's like 4 hours.
Shit.
Better be damn good open mat. 4 hours, right?
Oh,
No,
man.
I definitely need to make it out there.
Yeah, that'd be kind of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I always used to do
that.
that. I'd always drive to Chicago, like get up early, drive to Chicago, hit the open mat somewhere, and then drive back home. Like,
Did you really?
Oh, yeah.
Fucking gangster.
All through Blue Belt. And Purple
That's
Belt.
awesome.
Yeah.
Man. Well, we appreciate you hitting us up and coming out here. It was awesome, man. Finally.
Absolutely. Thanks for
Yeah.
having me, guys.
But next time we come out, man, we'll do another one. For sure.
Sounds good.
Awesome.
Thanks, John.
All right, we'll see you guys. Bye.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. For more information about Grappler Union Podcast, you could visit us at our website at grapplerunion.com. You can follow us on Instagram at Grappler Union. Please like us on Facebook. Be sure to subscribe on iTunes. And all of our episodes are available on our YouTube channel. Say what?
Be sure to subscribe.
Yeah, subscribe to all that shit. You got to do another take, right?
Oh.